Hello everyone, welcome to the Ukraine war briefing. I messed up my intro. Let's start again. Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia Commander. This is the Ukraine war briefing. Freaking hell. So Ukraine war briefing is a pretty new segment, which is basically reincarnation of the previous Ukraine war conclusions, which is part of the SITREP, because I just don't want to rehash things, so yeah, but it is what it is. I already done one briefing 2 weeks ago. I haven't managed to fit in the standard operating procedure, the SOP, into recording briefings. So yeah, it's very confusing. I'm not sure how to put out all the reports. I got so much thing to talk about, and so little windows to post videos, and yeah. So the latest frontline changes and the situation report has already been published on the DPA War channel. So briefings is only exclusively for the main channel, as this is not. This is more on analysis and speculations and and also to give an overview of what's happening in Ukraine, rather than just a pure reporting. Because what is reporting? Reporting is literally telling you what is happening. It's not telling you what to think. That is not reporting. No, that is opinion piece. So this is more like an opinion piece. So it fits better on the main channel. The reporting wise, simply telling you what had happened, and you make your own analysis. That's on the DPA War channel. So there's a few things that is currently happening. Actually, there's one major thing that's currently happening. We have entered summer in Ukraine, and the Ukrainians has been talking a lot about the summer offensive, and we are currently somewhat in the summer offensive. It seems like the summer offensive is here, but the thing is, it has never started. It already started since winter, so it has been an ongoing offensive, and the offensive have just. You can't start another offensive when a bigger offensive than what we already are looking at. So yeah, I mean, you can. The Russians are already fighting and attacking in multiple front line. Basically, all the front line are active from one time to another. And in the situation report, I titled it whack-a-mole, because it is like whack-a-mole. So the Russian forces right now is currently starting to initiate some kind of attack in this Zaporizhzhia front. There is a major attack towards Vodian direction in the Avdiivka region of the Donetsk front. There is, of course, the ongoing ones over at Velika Novosilka sector. I'm not sure if this color is good. No, is this color better? Yeah, maybe this color is better. Avdiivka front is the main one. This is the main attack, and then the Russians are also putting pressure on the Bakhmut front. Sivas front went quiet. Kremlin front went quiet. Sotove front and Kupiansk front started again, and then we have the pinning operation over at Kharkiv front. So we'll go into various front line. So the one thing first is, of course, the Kharkiv offensive, which a lot of people is very, very interested in. I have no idea why I think that a lot of people is interested in, but somehow a lot of people is interested in based on my gut feeling. And the Russian forces previously have launched a massive Kharkiv offensive. They attack towards in a various sector, in the Lipsy sector, the Kushne sector, the Zaporizhzhia sector, and the Volchansk sector, with the Lipsy and the Volchansk as the main push. And what happened right now is that I've been telling everyone, even I think during the super panel, I might have said this as well, in DPA open mics as well, before the Kharkiv offensive. I said that the Russians have no reasons to start the Kharkiv offensive or to capture the Kharkiv city. So the Kharkiv city is further south. This Kharkiv city, I say that the Russians have no reason to do this because it's just not the right time. And I say that if the Russians do attack, which when they did attack, I did say that this is just going to be a diversion attempt. They're not going to push very far. And even if they try to push, they will not try to attack Kharkiv. At most, they will just cut off some of these main roads and to basically hamper the logistic to the Kupiansk front, which is over here. So by cutting some of these main roads, Kupiansk will have massive logistical problems. So however, this is not what it happened. It basically aligned with my initial gut feeling that it is just a diversion attempt. The Russian forces now have established a very firm line from Kliboke to the south of Lukiansi, and then around the Nekushne region. So this is one front at the Lipsy sector. There is this around the Stanisya sector, leading up all the way to the Voschans and to the edge of Voschans at the Taike. So this is the two areas, and the Ukrainian forces have to send forces into these various hotspots and to plug the hole. Because despite this is just a diversionary attempt, the lack of resistance will mean that the Russians will continue to push forward. So the whole point is to put severe pressure on the Ukrainians to force Ukrainians to fight in this area where the entrenchment is just not mature enough, and to force the Ukrainians to dedicate yet another huge chunk of manpower to plug another hole. The entire front line around here, we are talking about 50 kilometers, around 50 kilometers in length, and which means it's yet another a lot of troops. You can imagine how many troops you need to cover each kilometer. So this is just a lot. I'm not sure, of course. No, I do not know what's the operation. What's their standard for every kilometers, how many soldiers they need to defend the front. I would imagine every 100 meter you will need 1 man at least. So 1 kilometer will be 10 men, 50 kilometers, 500 men at the very minimum. So, and of course, this is ignoring the fact that there is heavy fighting over at Lipsy, heavy fighting over at Voschans. These two areas definitely will have hundreds of men at any one time at the front line, and so this is the current situation the Russians are doing. They are also, and while they are pinning down precious experienced troops of the Ukrainians right here, because the pressure here, because this area is so unprepared for defensive operations, they have to send in the experienced troops to hold the line, and somehow the Ukrainian command has this wisdom to go on the counteroffensive rather than try to hold the line where it is. They went into the counteroffensive, and particularly in the Lipsy sector, the Ukrainian forces have pushed the Russians back from the previous line that was around here. The Russians have to push back to the higher ground, which you can see around here. So the Russians previously have taken all the high ground around here, but the Ukrainians launched a counter attack, and the Ukrainians have established the higher ground around here, and the Russians currently holding the other high grounds in the western part of Lukiansi, and the front line have not changed for quite some time. So the other side on the Voschans sector, Ukrainian forces have this salient, and they are very reluctant to give it up. They continue to send in reinforcement, which then the Russians proceeded to airstrike and artillery strike and to oblivion. The Russians have also blown up all the bridges around here, leaving just one bridge. Basically, this one, the Kharkiv Streets Bridge, basically it's like an invitation for the Ukrainians to continue to send in. It's unknown if this bridge is now blown up yet, but the Ukrainians has been geolocated to be building a pontoon crossing on the far side, on the eastern part of the Voschans, and this was geolocated to be hit by the Russian forces. So Ukrainian forces continue to try to hold this line, and this is a problem because the Ukrainians don't have the experienced manpower right now, and all this experienced manpower is very precious, and if they sent into fighting for this city, the city of Voschans, then they might be wasting away all these troops. The Russians have the high ground, for even bigger high ground in the north of Voschans, and is overlooking the city right now. and if they go into a major urban warfare, major city fight, which is what it is right now, then this is going to look like Bakhmut. And if it's going to become like Bakhmut, then the Ukrainians will this battle will start to suck up all the experience and best fighting troops from the Ukrainian side, and this will just allow the Russians to achieve their objective of demilitarization of the Ukrainian armed forces, and this is going to be bad. And because for me the wise thing to do is for the Ukrainians to hold a defense along the river. And because if you hold the defense along the river, the Russians will have no way to cross down. It's just impossible to cross the river easily without severe, tremendous fire support against the other side of the river, which will be difficult. River crossing is always one of the most difficult operation, and we have already seen it in the first year of war, how devastating it is for the Russian forces, where tremendous number of armored vehicle was destroyed when they're trying to cross the Seversky Donetsk River. So, not to mention this urban warfare situation where it's just much more difficult to do these crossings. So the Ukrainians, however, decided to die on this hill, which is not a hill, which is a city. So they decided to die on this city, which is not good. It is just not good. This is just a poor decision making on the Ukrainian side. I feel they shouldn't engage in this battle. I mean, in Lipsy, I can still kind of understand it's still out in the wilderness. And then if I put it back, you can see that it's the forest. The Ukrainian forces can use these tree lines to act as defensive lines, and Russians may find it a bit harder because they need to move in open ground in order to capture grounds, and rather than fight in the city, because city fight tend to be more even. Like, you don't really have that much advantage. Like, everyone is stuck in the same shitty situation, and if you can't come to an engagement, both sides have the equal chance to die. So which is why you don't want to fight in the urban warfare, which is why urban warfare is always feared and avoided, if possible, by all armed forces around the world, because your best trained troops may not be that much better in the urban warfare setting against a worse trained enemy, because danger can be anywhere. I mean, if you play in the computer games, you probably would also know, how easy to die when you have too many spots to cover. So yeah, that just takes too much toll. Which is why Bakhmut, the Battle of Bakhmut, the Battle of Mariupol is such devastating wars, such devastating battles, because both sides lost so much troops just to fight. And then now Voschansk becomes the new one. But this time round, the Russians have tremendous fire support. Vis-a-vis the Ukrainians is overwhelming. They have total air superiority, total artillery superiority, drone superiority. So the Ukrainians, even if they want to fight in this urban warfare, they want to go on this kamikaze with the enemy and die 1-to-1. They can't, because every time they have a deployment spot in the buildings, once spotted, they can get destroyed by airstrikes, and this just makes it so much harder, So this is the why I don't really like it. And now the pinning operation have succeeded. They have successfully become a magnet for Ukrainian effective troops, and draw away a lot of these effective forces away from the other front line. The Russians started to make major pushes in the other front line. Particularly over at the Avdiivka front, the Russian forces has been continuously trying to push out from the Ocheretyne region, and to no success, the Russians have started to push in the other front line. And now that the other front line are making progress, they have distracted the Ukrainians. Now they're pushing out again. So the Russian forces have recently just captured Netolove, Umansky, and now they are now pushing towards Kharkiv. Umansky, they are still trying to create a buffer around here. And the main push is in this northern part, in the Ocheretyne region. They are now attacking Novo Alexandrivka and Sokil,
and towards Ocheretyne. But there is this major frontline changes in the past 48 hours, which was the direction pushing up north. In the situation report and also in the analysis, which very few people watch, I guess, is that the Russians are going to push through this less entrenched position. So there's this entire blind spot or lack of entrenchments around here. This entire area here is just farmlands, and the Russians can actually take advantage and push all the way up, and then they can actually swing up and cut the road. And this will immediately remove one of the two roads that the New York fronts have to go out to civilization. And from here they can also push up, cut the other road, and this will break the logistic line between Kostyantynivka and Pokrovsk. So Kostyantynivka is here, Pokrovsk is here. So this line here can be cut off if the Russians push up this direction. But of course, this arrow will take some time to develop. So don't imagine like the next few days or the next few weeks. It's going to take months, I think. But we are already seeing this frontline change already. The Russians are starting to push out, and they are pinning the Ukrainians over here with the Battle of Novo-Alexandrivka and Kharkiv. So while they are actually secretly moving up this direction, this is what I think. So yeah, so this is going to have a strategic impact on the Ukrainians. And Kostyantynivka can then be siege. Depending on the timing, depending on what the Russians really want to do, they can then start to take Chasiv Yar and then combine and pincer Kostyantynivka, totally bypassing the entire New York front. In analysis that I've done, in the 1 year ago plus, I already mentioned how New York is pointless. So if maybe some of you guys may have watched it. So New York front there's only two roads. There's only this road and this road out. That's it. That's all you have from the entire front line here. The entire front line depends on just these two roads. So if the Russians can cut one of them, then the entire New York front will be compromised. If you cut the other ones, then the entire New York front will be operationally encircled. Literally, you cannot operationally encircle the entire front line. One of the most heaviest defender is like the series of Avdiivka around here, just by cutting two roads. So this is why Kostyantynivka to the Ukrainians are so important, and this is also why they are trying their best to hold Chasiv Yar, because Chasiv Yar is the window, the door to Kostyantynivka. However, I also don't believe that the Russians have any serious interest to capture Chasiv Yar, because Chasiv Yar is just so heavily defended. There's just no reason to do this. There is better ways to do this, or to just do this. Just go from the south, and as you start to draw more and more experienced troops, that will weaken Chasiv Yar, and then the Russians can actually punch through. And this is starting to have some kind of a feeling that this is currently happening. Chasiv Yar is currently defended by one of the best Ukrainian forces. The International Legion is there. They are treating Chasiv Yar as very, very important. Because one Kostyantynivka will collapse the entire front line around here. We are talking about a front line of like 50 kilometers. Or 60 kilometers. This is as big as the entire Kharkiv offensive. So the one Kostyantynivka, the falling will collapse such a big front line. I think the Ukrainians, which is why they are obsessed with Chasiv Yar. The Russians are not. Despite the Russians are attacking, in the Kalinina region, in Novi, through the forest towards Chasiv Yar, Ivaniske. If you have noticed, the frontline changes around here, if you are following my reporting, is minuscule. It's almost non-existent at times. There's just no progress. The progress seems fake at times. So even the Russians, when they reach across the canal, they withdrew. They just left. They just returned, and the Ukrainians retake half of Kalinina, because that is not what the Russians want. And in fact, who knows, the Ukrainians are inviting them in. The Ukrainians are inviting them in for a kill box, or something. or to trap the Russians there. The Russians just don't take the bite. They just don't want to progress, and they just use this effort to, you see, thermobaric missile strikes on Ukrainian positions. They're just attracting the Ukrainians to just keep coming back and get killed, and the Russians just don't want to take Novi. Novi is such a small place. They don't even want to take it. They just attack, hit and run. So the Ukrainians must understand this. If, of course, I'm not saying that don't defend Chasiv Yar. Chasiv Yar is so important because Kostyantynivka is so important. Kostyantynivka is very important. It's more important than Bakhmut, because when the Bakhmut came, Bakhmut has already lost its strategic value when the Wagner forces attacked in the pincer on both sides, and then they entered through the center. When you have this, the Bakhmut basically have already lost its strategic value. The Kostyantynivka currently have its strategic value because the Ukrainians feeds the Bakhmut front, feeds the New York front, and feeds the northern part of the Avdiivka front. And of course, it also links up with Slovians and Kramatorsk. So this is why, you know, Kostyantynivka is important. And if the Russians are able to launch a battle in this direction, breaking through Chasiv Yar, and start the battle at Kostyantynivka, then the entire front line here at the New York front will be compromised. This is why, you know, this is still strategically important. And if in another circumstances where the Russians did not attack from Chasiv Yar, let's say the links are still here. So this is still where it is, but the Russians attack through the south and cut off this road and attack into Kostyantynivka. Then the Ukrainians will be forced to react to this action, and the Russians can pincer from the rear. So still, it is still strategically important because New York front still exists. The main thing is that New York front exists. If the New York front falls gradually and then the front line, you know, looks like this, there's a poor drawing. Let's say the front line looks like this. Then Kostyantynivka is just another frontline city. There's no meaning in it. This is why I say that during the Battle of Bakhmut, when Bakhmut was still a thing, Wagner was still a thing, I say that no, Bakhmut has no strategic value anymore. This is just another frontline city. It used to be very strategically important as a hub, as a logistic hub, but it's no longer the case. During the days of Popasna, you know, when the Battle of Popasna was still ongoing, Bakhmut was severely important. It was so important, but Wagner just made it just another frontline city with this attack, and somehow the Ukrainians defend it like hell. So this is the situation right now. Of course, there is good reasons for why the Ukrainians think in this way. Donetsk, basically, there's only these few major cities, and right now they only have left with Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, Kostyantynivka, and Pokrov. And these are the major ones that they previously still have Avdiivka, which is now gone. They used to have Bakhmut, is gone. So which is why Bakhmut cannot fall, because now Bakhmut fall, now they have to put their defenses at Chasiv Yar to protect Kostyantynivka, because once Kostyantynivka fall, the entire southern part will fall, and then they only left with 3 more cities. And if the Russians take these 3 cities, Donetsk falls. The entire Donetsk Oblast falls. So because there will be nearly impossible. There's no more major cities around here, as you can see. Even a small little city here. I mean, Izium, the Russians have already captured it once. So these are not big cities. So then the next big one is Pavlograd over in the other oblast, in the Dnipro Oblast. I think it's the Dnipro Oblast, right? So yeah, so the strategic situation is kind of different. So anyway, I lost track. I talked off track for so much. So the Russians are now popping up in different places. Coming back to whack-a-mole. So the Russians now starting to attack in the Kupiansk direction. They have attacking, in this Oskil sector. In fact, I call it the Oskil front collectively. So you can see, if I draw in all the arrows, you can see how big the offensive is. It's all concentrating towards the north, Sviatove to the Kupiansk side. From the Crimea side, there is only these little things, and the Sivers front totally went quiet. There is nothing here. So this is the past 36 hours to 48 hours. So the Russians are now moving. Previously, it wasn't the case. Previously, the fighting was actually here. And the northern part here is relatively quiet. So the Russians are now moving around. They are attacking here, then after that here, then after that here, after that here. This is one part. Then Bakhmut. Bakhmut is a pinning operation, so the Russians continue to just put pressure on this area here. Important thing to note again, Klishevka and Andreevka is not confirmed to be captured. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed the capture of these two locations, but there is totally no evidence of Russians fully capturing Klishevka or Andreevka. None. Zero. So this is probably fake news. And the Russians, of course, New York front, like I said, New York is a totally useless front line. So don't expect much big battles around here. You can look at the entrenchment around here. It's a lot, but it's a very vulnerable front because of these two roads, which is also why you can see how heavily defended the road is, the number of trenches around here. And this road is much lesser. You have it around here as part of the New York front all the way to the Kalinove, Citadel region. So this line is the main line of defense to protect this road, and that's about it. The entire front lies on just two roads. Bakhmut have 3 roads. Bakhmut have more roads, to feed it than the entire New York front. So now the Russians are pushing out at Avdiivka, and then there is this another major front line that I suspect other channels, because I don't watch, so I don't know. I suspect other channels may not be focusing so much. How I know is because I don't see people talk about it on X. So the big one is actually here. This is another Kostyantynivka, which is somehow also Kostyantynivka, but I call this the Novomihailivka sector, I would guess. The Russians are now making massive push from Boyeda, Paraskovievka towards Kostyantynivka and towards Vodian. And these push are resulting in huge frontline changes almost on the daily basis. And this is very critical as well, because this Kostyantynivka feeds all the way to Voleda, and any battles around the Kostyantynivka or the cutting of the road would make logistics to Voleda much more harder. Means that the Ukrainians will have to go through the small roads. It's not fatal, but no, it just makes life very difficult. So this arrow, this major advance is very big. It's actually a very big attack. We're talking about a front line of 20 kilometers. So it's just a 20 kilometers, but it's still huge. It's still a very big battle around here. And the battle of Paraskovievka is now ongoing, and the Russians are seemingly going to reach Kostyantynivka very soon with the geolocation just off Kostyantynivka. We're talking about the distance of just merely 700 meters. So the Russians are very, very close to this Kostyantynivka, so they are going to start battle around very soon. And of course, we have the major battle of Krasnohorivka over there. This one is very slow. The Russians are attacking they're kind of stuck here. Either the Ukrainians are doing a very good job, the Russians are deliberately making this another of this pinning place, to pin Ukrainian forces around here, because the Russians are not pushing at all. They're just happily taking half of it and then they are not moving anymore. So we shall see, because I feel that the most hardest part was this major entrenchment on the eastern part, and the Russians have already overcome it. So they are already in a place where there is not much heavy entrenchment that is previously marked on the map. So yeah, we wonders, because ultimately the Russians, if they go too fast, the other front line may not be able to catch up. So that's also a problem. And so anyway, and another major things other than the Velika Novosilka sector, the Russians are pushing Staromoyovsky and Voleda. This is already very well known already by now, if you follow my reports, is this activation of the Zaporizhzhia front. This is very concerning. At the Zaporizhzhia front, Russian forces are consolidating Robotyne. They have already captured Robotyne on the 15th of May, and they are now consolidating their positions with pushes to straighten the front line around here. And the Russians are already starting to distract the Ukrainians with probing attacks at Malatomashka, Novodanilivka, Shabaki. Previously, there was an attack in the Nestyryanka region towards Novoandrievka in the north of Merne. So there is already a lot of these probing attacks. And I fear that all these probing attacks are going to result in a massive offensive. And Ocheretyne is one of these pivots, very important towns around here. It links up to all the different front lines positions. Of course, once the front line reach there, of course, just like the other front that I mentioned about, once the front line reach Ocheretyne is just another frontline city. But tentatively, this is a very pivotal spot. And once from this position, the Russian forces can hit down the roads. And this entire area, is going to be very difficult to defend for the Ukrainians. It's just one big, massive headache. So we will definitely have to watch. But I think the likelihood of a Zaporizhzhia offensive is largely low, and even if it exists, it's going to be very limited in scale, like the Kharkiv offensive. It's going to be limited in scale. It's just to draw in Ukrainian forces and establish a new defensive line. I don't think the Russians are going to push in a massive push towards Borovsky or something. I don't think so. Unlikely. They're definitely not going to capture Zaporizhzhia city in any offensive. I don't expect major battles in cities like Kharkiv city, Zaporizhzhia city, Dnipro. I just don't expect this thing to happen. The Russians don't want to destroy the cities if they can help it, because conquering destroyed cities means you still have to spend money to rebuild it. It's still money, it's still resources, and it's also costly in terms of manpower. A lot of soldiers have to die to fight in city warfare. So I believe that the Russians are avoiding it. They are trying to demilitarize the Ukrainian troops. They are trying to wipe them out in front lines, the existing front lines, so that when they are weak enough, when the Russian push through, it will be easy going. They can rout the Ukrainian forces and capture all this city intact. They have already experienced Mariupol. They have experienced Severodonetsk, Rubizny, Lysychansk. So in Rubizny, things is very bad. Severodonetsk and Lysychansk is not that bad, but they have experienced all these different cities, in various degrees of destruction. And Popasna is totally gone. And then Mariupol is totally gone. So they have already realized how expensive it is to conquer destroyed cities, which is also why I think that the Russians are not in a rush. Because if they conquer too many of this Donbas city or the Kharkiv cities or towns or major settlements and get them destroyed in the process, they also basically play into the hands of the Ukrainians, because the Ukrainians already know for sure that they have already lost all these places. They know they can't win. They are only hoping that the NATO will come and whack the Russians into disintegration, but that is not happening. So that's why the scorched earth tactic of the Ukrainians, in a way that it's not a typical USSR scorched earth. USSR scorched earth is that they redraw and burn everything. The Ukrainians is that they fight you everywhere and destroy everything. This tactic is going to cause a lot of destruction, and the Russians probably know it as well. If I know it, the Russians clearly knows it. And this is also why I think they don't want to fight in these areas here. In fact, the Russians also did not want to fight in Kherson. They left it. Yeah, and then you can see the front line around Zaporizhzhia line there is no major settlements around here. The closest major ones is at Tokmak, which is still quite some distance away. So the Russians know what they are doing. They have already plotted this out probably very early. We are just catching up. So whatever it is, I think this is interesting lesson in strategy. I mean, we probably played too much computer games. We watched too much US operations in Iraq, in Syria, in Afghanistan. Sometimes, we just think of things too straight, too chess with no strategy. Sometimes you can play Go. You can play a different kind of tactic. And in this case, the Russians are playing this incredible attritional warfare. Clearly, attrition war, people die. No, even if you are doing the one conducting it, you die too. No, you have a lot of troops dying. Russians have a lot of soldiers die. No, in defensive operation, offensive operation, or simply sleeping in their bunk and then use their phone, and then they die from HIMARS strike. No, so no, it's not the joking matter. Despite I joke a lot when I do reporting because it's just so grim, but just take note. No, don't cheer on. I don't know. You're pro-Ukrainian or pro-Russian. I'm neutral. I don't joke about the people dying. So hope you don't celebrate people dying as well. So anyway, thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe, and let me know what you think about the Ukraine war briefings segment or this series. It's a totally different thing from SITREP. It's a lot more speculation, analysis, opinions, and yeah, less dry. I know. So let me know what you think. And if you want me to continue on this series, or how often do you want me to do this? Clearly, if you watch to this point at 35 minutes, I think you like it. So just let me know your opinions. I'll read as much as I can. And thank you for watching. Commander, press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.